Welcome to Sword of Truth Apologetics today, all right? And today what we're going to do is we're going to take a false religion, okay, the religion of Islam and Christianity, all right, and we're going to falsify it. And what that means is I've talked a lot about truth, in my Proving Christianity series. The first season is based on truth, right? So I figured I'd do some episodes on truth, what truth is, and how to attain truth, right? Everybody has to be able to not follow a religious system because their parents say, okay, or their friends say, or their parents say. This is a fallacy, all right? Because you're loving your parents or you're loving your family more than you're loving the God that created you, and we all know that that's wrong. So God calls us all to find Him ourselves. And also, how do we come to truth? Okay. During the time of the pagans, the kids were pagans, the parents were pagans. This is a fallacious human cycle that we always do, right? We always follow our family, even if it's terrible and it's a horrible uh, belief system. We'll still follow people. We got to get out of that. Okay. Since the discovery of truth, the Greeks really kind of discovered truth, and they wrote a lot of Greek philosophy on how to attain truth. And the Bible is a manifestation of truth. But I want to show you guys. We're going to use the 8 laws of attaining truth to Islam. We're going to apply it. We're going to see if Islam can, how they are once we apply these laws. If can it be falsified? So we're going to start with one here. Now, what I want to say is there's no such thing as a foolproof system, all right, for attaining truth in everything. Any system that claims that is lying by definition, okay? But what we can do is there's a maximally reliable self-correcting system that gets you closer to truth than any alternative and exposes errors when it appears, all right? That's what I'm going to teach you guys today, okay? And we're going to take Islam, and we're going to apply it to that. We're going to take Christianity, and we're going to apply it to that. Okay, here's that system, cleaned and battle tested. Okay, the closest thing to a foolproof system for truth. All right, first is the law of non-contradiction. Okay, this is something that cannot be true and false in the same sense at the same time. If a claim contradicts itself, it's false, right? There's no exceptions here. This is the foundation of logic, math, science, theology, and everything. Something cannot be true and cannot be false at the same time, right? So that's number one, all right? So the questions there is going to be, does this belief contradict itself? And does it deny what it must assume to exist? Okay. If yes, we discard it as a non-truth. Okay. Number 2, correspondence with reality. Truth must match what exists, not just what's believed, right? So we got to ask, does this claim map onto observable reality? If it's historical, does evidence exist? If it's metaphysical, does it explain reality better than all of the alternatives? Okay. Truth describes reality. It doesn't redefine it. It just describes what it is. All right. Number 3, explanatory power, not just evidence. Multiple views explain some facts. Truth explains more facts with fewer assumptions. Okay. Compare scope, how much it explains. Depth, why it explains it. Coherence, no patchwork fixes. Okay. The best explanation wins, not the most comforting one. All right, number 4, internal coherence. A true worldview doesn't collapse under scrutiny, doesn't need ad hoc excuses, and remains consistent across time and situations. If you constantly need to say, well, except for, you're defending error, okay? Number 5, external consistency. Truth doesn't conflict with known truth, all right? A claim that violates logic, denies established facts, requires redefining words mid-argument, is already dead. Okay. 6, falsifiability. Can it be proven wrong? This is huge. Ask, what would prove this false? Is there anything that could count against it? If the answer is nothing, it's not truth, it's ideology. Truth is not afraid of being tested, okay? Number 7, moral and existential coherence. This is where shallow systems will fail, all right? Can you live with this worldview consistently? Does it account for meaning, reason, moral obligation, and human dignity? If a worldview uses reason to deny reason, uses morality to deny morality, uses truth claims to deny truth, it self-destructs. Okay. And finally, number 8, and then we'll get to Islam and how it applies to these. Self-referential integrity, the ultimate test. This is the most brutal truth filter of them all. Ask, does this belief system undermine the very tools it uses to argue for itself? All right. Examples of a failure here would be there is no objective truth. Okay, that's a truth, right? Saying there's no objective truth, you just made a truth statement. Therefore, you're self-refuting yourself. Reason is unreliable. Okay, you're reasoning though to say that reason is unreliable. So if you say reason is unreliable, but you're reasonably saying it, you're reasoning when you say it. So it's a self-refuting attestation. All beliefs are culturally conditioned. Okay, all beliefs are culturally conditioned. Okay, if someone says that, they don't know what they're talking about, because that's their belief, right? So you're saying all beliefs are culturally conditioned, what, except yours, the one you're saying now. So those are three that would be a self-referential integrity. They'd fail the test, obviously. And so truth can stand on its own feet. All right, it doesn't need these type of statements. The meta rule, why this works. The system works because it is cumulative. I can't talk. I can't say this word. Cumulative, multiple filters, self-correcting, reality anchored, applies equally to itself. Anything false eventually fails one of these layers. So truth is what survives logic, reality, evidence, coherence, falsifiability, and lived consistency without contradiction. Okay, if you want, let's go now to Islam. Let's try Islam, and we're going to use these laws, folks. I've never seen anybody, use these 8 filters for truth out there. I think it's a great way to get truth. So we're going to take, maybe once a week, we'll take each belief system and we'll put it through it and see what happens, see what comes out. I've already done Christianity, okay, and it comes out really well. But let's do Islam. All right, Islam claims. Okay, first we're going to do the law of non-contradiction. You tell me if it succeeds or fails, okay? Islam claims Allah's word is perfect and unchangeable. Okay, he's God. His word is perfect and unchangeable. But, and that's in Surah 115. Okay, yet the Jews and Christian, they say that our scriptures were Allah's word, and it was corrupted and it was lost and it was deleted pretty much because we don't have the Injil, they say, and we don't have the Torah. So Allah's word is perfect and unchangeable, yet Allah's words got lost and changed. You see that? So the law of non-contradiction. So it fails that. Let's see how else it fails. It says the Quran is clear and internally consistent, yet we find direct contradictions. Example, salvation. They teach faith alone in one passage here. Quran 262. Jews and Christians who believe in God on the last day can be saved. Okay, then they teach faith plus Muhammad is required. Quran 385. Any religion other than Islam is rejected. So which is it? Jews and Christians who believe in God on the last day can be saved, or any religion other than Islam is rejected. Which one is it? Both can't be true. See? So the law of non-contradiction, and it fails. All right. So the contradiction equals a false claim. All right. So it does. So number one, Islam already fails. The law of non-contradiction. Number two, correspondence with reality. Islam makes historical claims that contradict known reality. Now, this is an easy one. And based on this right here, I would never even, I hope people out there that are Islam, you just throw it away. I mean, don't even consider being a Muslim, people. It's ridiculous, all right? So what they say is Quran 4:157, Jesus was not crucified, all right? They say that Jesus was not crucified. That's their claim. So they came 600 years later and said, Jesus is not crucified, right? However, Tacitus, who's one of the best Roman historians of all time, said what? He was crucified. What does Josephus say? A Jewish historian. He was crucified. Lucian, the Greek historian, he was crucified. The Talmud, which is a hostile Jewish source to Jesus, admits he was crucified. All affirm Jesus was executed by crucifixion. I mean, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they say he was crucified. So every early attestation, and if you use the historical method, every historian believes that Jesus was crucified, yet Islam says, no, it wasn't. So they go against everything that every historian says it is from the first century that would have been right there. But the one that comes 600 years later says, no, it's not. So that is a contradiction. And that right there alone should nix Islam. This is not from God, folks. Obviously, God would know that Jesus was in fact crucified. Number 3, explanatory power. Islam is very weak here as well, and I'll tell you why. Islam attempts to explain God, revelation, morality, and human reason, but creates more problems than it solves. Okay? Why would a perfect God allow satanic verses? Okay, satanic verses. If you guys don't know, Muhammad got a revelation. Instead of from God, it was from Satan, and he actually praised three daughters of Allah, which is polytheism. So out of Muhammad's mouth came polytheism and polytheistic revelations, right? And then later they said, oh, no, 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 that was the satanic verses. That was Satan had gotten in and told Muhammad what to say, but God corrected it. And then they even put a verse in the Quran saying, oh, yeah, all the prophets, sometimes Satan will will change the words, but then God will correct it. Don't worry. Which is a lie. That's never happened to any prophet in history. So we know that's a lie. So the satanic verses, again, that's another thing you can just completely refute Islam on. If a prophet has a satanic verse, he is not a prophet. In Exodus, Moses says, if you speak what God does not tell you to speak, you are to be killed as a false prophet. So based on that, based on the Bible, Moses, who they even affirm as one of their prophets, says you are not a prophet, Muhammad. So Moses says, no, you're not a prophet. Your explanatory power also is gone. Another thing, that was enough right there, but we can also say, why does Allah need abrogation if his word is eternal, right? So he says he has an eternal word, Quran 2:106, but he abrogates things. He lets something happen now and then later as well. Thank you, Darwin. Appreciate it. And why does Allah deceive people? Okay. So yeah, he's the greatest deceiver. Okay. You know why I think that? I think Allah of the Quran is Satan of the Bible. Okay. I think they're the same people because this revelation is an absolutely revelation of lies, deceit, and it takes away from what Christ did. Okay. Islam explains inconsistencies by appeal to mystery, not clarity. Okay. Poor explanatory power. Okay. So it's failed 3. So why would you take Islam as truth? All right. Is what I want to know. It's failing every truth test that we give it. Number 4, internal coherence. Okay. Guess what? Islam fails. Okay. Let's see. Islam teaches Allah is not a father. Allah does not enter creation. Allah does not have relationships. Yet Allah speaks in time, issues commands sequentially, abrogates his own speech, reacts emotionally. He has anger. He has deception. He has pleasure. This creates a philosophical incoherence, a timeless, unchanging being who acts in time and changes command. That's eternally unstable. Again, he speaks in time. He's supposed to be a timeless, unchanging being who acts in time and changes commands. Yeah. So, the God of the Bible, for example, his nature is unchanging. God doesn't lie. He's not a man that he would lie. Numbers 23:19. And, he speaks outside of time. He speaks. That's why you have prophecy. We know that God is outside of time in the Bible because he gives us a prophecy. And then, 600-700 years later, it comes to full completion. Okay. So that is internal coherence fails. All right. Number 5, external consistency. Islam affirms the Torah and gospel were originally from God. Quran 3:3 and 546. And Muhammad is foretold in the prior scripture. That's what is said in the Quran. But the Torah and the gospel do not contain Muhammad anywhere. Okay. Surprise, surprise, right? Manuscripts before and after Muhammad are substantially identical. Okay. So Islam must say the scriptures are from God, but corrupted, yet Allah tells Jews and Christians to judge by them, Quran 5:47. So their God tells them to judge by the scriptures of which they say are corrupted. This is the Islamic dilemma, of course. So this book teaches you that the Bible's corrupted, but you're still to judge by it. So their God is telling you to judge by a corrupted scripture. Does that make any sense at all? Does that make any sense at all? It's a self-defeating contradiction because this wasn't God that wrote this book. This was a 7th century illiterate caravan robber who was trying to attain power, wealth, and women, not be a holy prophet of God. Okay, I'm sorry. And there's no excuse to believe in this religion. I'm sorry, especially after this. Number 6, falsifiability. Okay, and does Islam fail or does it succeed? Fails. Okay, what would prove Islam false? So that's the question we have to ask. I'm going to ask what would prove Christianity false. Okay, and I can answer that once we do the test on Christianity. What would prove Islam false? The typical statements are, that's not wrong. You misunderstand the Arabic. You just don't know Arabic, Chris. Allah knows best. That's what they love to say. Oh, that's what they love to say. So why is this a contradiction? Allah knows best. Okay, that's not an answer. I'm sorry. That's your cop out. It's metaphorical. It's metaphorical, Chris. You don't understand. It's metaphorical. Abdul's, come on, man. That hadith is weak. That is a weak hadith. We graded that hadith weak. It is not a strong hadith. It is not Sahih. It is not Sahih Muslim. It is not Sahih Bukhari. That is a weak hadith. Okay? Context. You got to read that in context, okay? The fact that Allah comes down from the highest heaven to the lowest heaven to hear doesn't mean he's not all hearing. You have to read that in context. Okay? These are the things that they say. Every time you have a way to falsify Islam, which is pretty easy, as you can see, when you have like actual way to filter truth, they come up with the excuses. Okay? So there's no conceivable evidence allowed to falsify Islam. They don't allow it. So that's a great question to ask any imam, or if there's anybody that's trying to truth seek and they want to ask their imam, just ask them this: how do you falsify Islam? How do you do it? What would prove Islam false? They won't answer you. They won't answer you. Okay, because it's a lie. I mean, because they know anything they say they'll get busted on. So that makes ideology not truth. Okay. Now, number 7, moral and existential coherence. Islam fails again. What do you know? Islam allows child marriage, Muhammad and Aisha, okay? And they get busted on that all the time. And Muslims will say, bring something new, guys. We're so tired of hearing this. No, okay? He's supposed to be a holy prophet. And he's marrying a 6-year-old girl. He's consummating that when she's 9 years old, okay? Now, a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old woman back in the ancient days, a little more understandable, not a 9-year-old. There's never a time where a 9-year-old, it's okay for a 9-year-old. Somebody tries to marry my 9-year-old daughter, and it's going to be me in jail probably for the rest of my life, okay? I would never let my little girl marry anybody. I don't care how Christian they are, okay, at 9 years old, okay? As a father, my job would be to protect my daughter. Most Muslims know this because most Muslims are good family people, actually. They just have the wrong religion, but they're good family people and they're close with their families, so they know this. But guess what? They have to defend pedophilia to defend the prophet. And this is evil, folks. This is from Satan, okay? Anytime you have children being hurt, that's from the devil, okay? You look at the way Jesus was. He was a direct reflection of the character of God. What did he do? He protected women and he protected children. He protected the weak, okay? So, yeah, there's wife beating, okay? You're allowed to beat your wife. Quran 434, you're allowed to beat your wife. That's right. You're allowed to strike your wife. You strike your woman, okay? A gentleman should never strike his woman. You're allowed to strike your woman. It's unbelievable. Sex slavery in Quran as well. Quran 424, there's sex slavery. External torture for disbelief alone. And let's be honest, they'll kill you if you leave. That's also one of their beliefs. And they'll try to always point to the Old Testament and for everything. Well, they did it back then, and most of the time it's a lie. Okay, but Muslims will still appeal to objective morality, all right? Human dignity and justice. Again, they will appeal to objective morality, human dignity, and justice. These moral categories cannot be grounded in Islamic theology where good is whatever Allah wills, even if it's arbitrary. So again, in Christianity, good is who God is. His very nature is good. So when he gives us moral laws, he's given us who he is, what he is, right? Versus in Islam, good is whatever their God decides it is, okay? If prostitution is good today, then it's good today. Okay, there's something called muta, where you're allowed to pay a woman to sleep with you during wartime, all right? That's prostitution. But that was good. Now they say it's not, he doesn't allow that anymore. So this God changes? What? I mean, sin is always a sin. Right is always right and wrong is always wrong. Okay, it doesn't change based on what this God says. I mean, that's a pagan God. That's the devil. That's what that sounds like. That doesn't sound like the holy God of the universe. I'm sorry. Okay? These moral categories cannot be grounded in Islamic theology where good is whatever Allah wills, even if arbitrary. Morality collapses into power, not goodness, all right? The morality in Islam is because Allah is all powerful and it's whatever he says goes. Okay, again, that sounds like Satan. Self-referential integrity. They fail hard on this one. Oh boy. So yeah, let's talk about this. Self-referential integrity. All right. Islam claims Allah cannot be deceived. Islam claims Allah protects revelation. Okay. Yet Quran 2252 admits Satan interfered with the revelation, the satanic verses. Muhammad thought he was demon possessed. That's Sahih Bukhari. Okay. Allah later corrects the revelation. He later corrects it and says, "Oh, this is wrong. It's from Satan." or maybe a demon possessed prophet said something that wasn't monotheistic, that was of Satan, and everybody realized it later and said, "Muhammad, you better change this." I know. I just got a revelation from Allah. Guess what? I just got a revelation from Allah. Guess what? Yeah, but he corrects it. It was Satan. I'm sorry. Give me a break, man. You believe this stuff? Come on. All right. The Quran admits revelation can be corrupted and only later corrected. All right. So that undermines confidence in every verse, including the one claiming protection. So, Muslims croak and moan about how perfectly their book, the Revelation, is. All right. How it's perfect, it's word for word, and it's such a lie. Oh, it makes me sick when they say that. This right here tells you that, if a revelation can be corrupted and only later corrected, that undermines the confidence in every verse. Okay, and we can get into all that whole thing. I can destroy the fact that it's perfectly preserved, especially when you got a guy named Uthman who's editing the Quran. He literally edits it, and these clowns out there. No offense, I hope, like, I love Muslims, man. I hope they come to Christ. I pray for them every day. But there's clowns out there that will, allow a guy to burn all these manuscripts and basically make up the Quran that he wants to make up, and then give it to the rest of the world and say, "This is the new Quran." He's not Muhammad. He's not he didn't get promised any revelation. Why is he doing this? Who is he? So that's editing the Quran. That's what they say that we did with the Bible, but they can't prove it. See, they did it. And again, self-referential integrity fails hard. All right. So the final verdict using this truth framework: non-contradiction, they fail. Reality correspondence, they fail. Explanatory power, they fail. Okay. Internal coherence, they fail. Okay. External consistency, they fail. Okay. Falsifiability, Islam, they fail. Moral coherence, they fail. Self-referential integrity, they fail. Okay. So they literally don't have one way to prove their religion can even stand the truth test for even a second. So you wonder, people wonder why I go hard on this religion. Christianity is the truth. It'll blow right through these. Okay, where at least at the end of it, you can say that the best facts that we have, Christianity passes that, Christianity passes that, Christianity passes that. All right. Islam fails every major test for truth because it contradicts itself, denies reality, undermines its own revelation, and collapses under moral and logical scrutiny. Okay. And that's that. So thanks for, hanging with me and going through this kind of falsifiability test of truth. It's kind of filter. We can filter things, filter belief systems based on this, and see if it stands the test. Anyways, if you like this, subscribe to Sort of Truth Apologetics. I will see you guys next time.